Hey, everybody. I'm back. Haven't done an interview for a little while. And I'm so thrilled to be here with Sara Dubeau. And we're going to be talking about essential oils. I don't know about you, but I get so many emails now, whether it's Dr. Axe or somebody saying, the beauty, the strength of essential oils. So I want to know more about essential oils. So I'm talking to someone who's very knowledgeable with essential oils. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So Sara Dubeau is a natural healthcare practitioner with over a decade of experience in lifestyle medicine and the healing arts. In addition to her practice, she is a doTERRA wellness educator, providing opportunities to learn about key wellness concepts and connecting people to natural tools that they can safely and simply use at home to support their health and well-being. Love that. She hosts monthly workshops and programs for her wellness community in Ottawa, Ontario, as well as providing free continuing education online. She believes in our innate capacity to heal and encourages those she works with to claim ownership over their healthcare choices and become their own health advocate. So we're going to chat about essential oils. So my first question to you is, you use, and they're behind you, I love it,
Yeah.
doTERRA essential oils in your practice. Can you share with me why you use doTERRA? Because there's so many out there, right? You can go to a local health food store and they've got their brand, or there's, so why doTERRA?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So you've really seen this popularity and emergence of essential oils. Like you said, you can find them almost everywhere. Yeah. doTERRA is actually the leader in essential oils in the wellness industry, and for a really good reason. And this is something that I had to kind of look into myself, because I dabbled in essential oils before, and I would go to the health food store and I would get something that I thought was fairly decent, and I would have sort of these hit or miss experiences with it, right? So it was sort of a tool, but I didn't really use it to the extent that I understand I'm able to now. And I had an experience actually with peppermint essential oil. A colleague of mine shared it with me. I was having a pretty decent tension headache, and she shared it with me, and I just put it on my temples, back of my neck. And as I realized as we were speaking that it started to dissipate. And so I had that reaction too. And so I was like, this is a little different. Why is that? There's something slightly different about these. So kind of went into research mode and got myself a starter kit of oils and started playing around. And what I realized with doTERRA and with the oils in the market, it really comes down to two things. And a lot of it is purity. And the second is potency. So the challenge right now when you're looking for essential oils, and what I realized after, is that there is actually no regulation of purity on the market. And so while you could pick up a bottle that says 100% pure lavender on it, what's actually in the bottle can only really be determined once you start testing it, because a lot of third-party testing that's been done on they've either been adulterated, so someone's gone in and changed it slightly, either to extend that product to make more money, or perhaps the plant wasn't grown as well in proper soil conditions, and it doesn't have that therapeutic chemical profile, so they've played around with it. Or unfortunately, even when we have sort of even organic standards, sometimes it can be contaminated. Sure. So that can happen too if they've held it in plastic containers, and you're not going to know about that unless you're actually testing. So doTERRA does extensive testing, third party and in-house, and they make all of this testing available to the consumers. So there's this transparency that's really unique, and that's actually encouraging, I should say, the rest of the industry to kind of follow suit. So that's something you want to look at. So for example, if I had a lemon essential oil or even frankincense, there's a lot number, and you can go to a website called Source to You, and you can look up the testing that's been done on those bottles. So that's sort of a quality assurance part in terms of purity. But the other part that's really important to me as a practitioner is I need it to work.
Right.
So, if it's something that I'm using for myself and for safety purposes, I need to understand what's in that bottle. And so each plant has a signature chemical fingerprint, and that's really important, and that can be determined by a lot of different things. The environment that it's grown in, we know that with plants, or if, say, it was picked at the appropriate time or distilled appropriately, we want to make sure that it's not just safe, but that it's going to be effective. And we only know that if we can actually look at the chemical fingerprint of that oil, and that's also in those testing profiles. So there's this quality assurance with doTERRA that's up here that you're not really seeing across the board. So that's just something to think of when you're using essential oils for purposes. And it also means that I can recommend it in certain ways that maybe you couldn't if you just pulled off of an essential oil from another. I mean, you're even seeing it in grocery stores and stuff too, right? So I just want that to really sink in for people to understand that, because it comes down to safety, especially for them.
Well, and I think you're right too, because, you know, when you and I met, because we were chatting over a client who was using essential oils, and I wanted to know more, you know, I shared my story with you about essential oils, that I had tried a few and had some reactions. And because I have environmental sensitivities, usually, you know, a smell for some person is okay, but a smell for me is like way up here. And
yeah,
shared that with you, and when you started to talk about doTERRA, I thought, okay, this is, because I think I thought, well, essential oils is essential oil, lavender is lavender is lavender,
and that's what I used to think too.
Yeah, but it's not. And you know, similarly with you, I shared with you that when we were doing some renovations, I stayed at my girlfriend's, and she consults with you, and she uses doTERRA, and so I tried a little bit. And I was okay. I mean, I didn't try all of them because she had most of them away with her on holidays.
Because she didn't want to.
But, you know, I thought I'll just try. I'll be brave. I'll just. And no, I didn't have anything miraculous happen. But I think like that's it. It's seeing someone like you that has really studied these and is well versed, because there are so many. So let's talk about. I guess the different ways you can use essential oils. I mean, I see you've got your
I sort of my natural. Well, I have my diffusers. So there are several ways that we can use them. And I think for a lot of people, initially they feel like it's a little overwhelming, but I'm going to put it into categories so you can kind of get an idea of how it works. So you can actually use essential oils 3 ways. For a lot of people, their entry point might be they're wanting to take out some of the like you were mentioning, chemical sensitivities or chemical load that's happening in terms of cleaning products or body care products. And that's usually the first interest for people, is they're kind of looking at how can I switch out for creating my own cleaners in a way that can be supportive to me rather than detracting from my health, or
and that's interesting, because I never really thought essential oils, you could use them to clean your house.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is the other piece that I really love about them, and why I've decided to share them in this capacity is because the versatility, the number of ways that you can use to support your health is pretty extensive, right? And everyone's got their different entry point, but for a lot of people, it might just be, I want a nice smelling home, but that one that is healthy for me and supportive. And that could be a huge beginning for people, right?
Yeah, not full of the pine sol chemical smell.
Yeah, if it says mountain fresh, you can guarantee
what it's doing to your lungs.
So that's a big burden for people. And so even switching it out there, but you can think about aromatically. So a lot of people are seeing things like the diffuser that I have. So we call that aromatic. And that's how people traditionally understand essential oils too, right? So you can actually use it in something like a diffuser. What that means is that you're inhaling it. So these small chemical compounds from the plants, from these essential oils, are actually being dispersed in the air, or you could actually take it in your hands and inhale it. That's another way that you can do it. So when you're doing this, what you're doing is either you can be purifying your air if you want to. You could be opening up the respiratory passages. So something like peppermint is a really wonderful one for opening up respiratory passages when we're congested. The other one is supporting mood. And it's something that a lot of people don't realize, is that when we're inhaling these beautiful essential oils, what they're doing is interacting with the limbics, so this emotional center of our brain, and it can actually support mood. So we can either feel a little more uplifted, or we can feel a little more calm. People recognize lavender often as one of those calming essential oils, so it can support sleep. So this is one way that we can be thinking of it aromatically.
And I
Another,
think, sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you because I
yeah.
think, like my nephew's wife, I think she has introduced it, for her young son, and
Yeah.
maybe women are thinking of doing that and maybe putting it in a baby's bedroom,
Mhm.
or if the child is a little bit hyperactive, just to help calm them down. And I think it's so important to know what is
Mhm.
going into those little lungs. Is it
Absolutely.
pure or is it not? So as you said, you can get these sort of cheapy ones in the grocery store. Maybe that's not the best thing to be diffusing in a baby's room.
Because they're highly concentrated, right? So your purity and your potency is really important. And so for us, so people tend to relegate it to topical and aromatic, and they don't really think about the quality as much. But anything you are inhaling, anything you're putting on your skin is just as important as what you're taking in through your mouth, right?
Right.
So especially we tend to think of children first. We tend to protect them a little more than we do ourselves. But in general, for ourselves, for our pets, for our kids, for the environment, it's really important that we're, really choosing oils. And you don't need a lot. This is another thing. These are highly concentrated. So this is something where, for a baby's room, it might be one drop in a large diffuser with the door open, that kind
Right.
of thing.
Right.
Or when I'm talking about topically, we're going to be diluting those highly for smaller people, different than we would for adults. So purity and dilution come down to a big part of how we're going to use oils in a safe manner. And there's like some guidelines around using essential oils, but they're pretty simple to remember and use, and trusting and kind of being a student of your body. And like you were saying, you're sort of just determining what your personal dosage is, right? So
Right.
it's sort of taking that into your hands and learning about it. So topically, like I said, you're going to have a carrier. So I like what we mean by that is some kind of oil. I like fractionated coconut oil, or it could be an unscented hand cream, something like that, that you actually put the essential oil in, and then you can apply it topically. So think of sore joints, think of even like belly upset. So coming back to blends that are really supportive of belly. Right now with all the shoveling, we had a massive snowstorm here in Ottawa. So people are going to be feeling the strain. So we have ones that support tension, things like that. But you're thinking more of a localized area with that. When you're applying topically. For kids and such, we tend to do bottoms of the feet, or the spine is another good spot for them. And then the third way, and this is very unique to doTERRA, because again, they can assure what's in the bottle, and the research that they're doing, because they actually do have quite a few research partnerships. So they're able to come back and let us know how we can use these effectively to support systemically. So there's ones for immune system support or supporting digestion, things like that, that can be really powerful for, and we call it kind of informed self-care, right? Ways that we can be taking care of ourselves that way too. Yeah.
And as you're saying, you can take them internally.
We can, yeah. So these specifically we can. It's always, there's a certain amount of dosage that you can take within a day, and that's dependent on adults. We don't tend to give that for little people, although people don't recognize they're taking essential oils in all the time. So there's essential oils are generally recognized as safe. There's a grass food essential oils. We have it in all kinds of foods. We're actually taking it in all the time.
Right.
For this as a therapeutic, you can absolutely use it that way, but it wouldn't be across the board. So I wouldn't pick something up at the grocery store, health food store, and use it the same way. So that's really important to know.
Right. And I think that's really important to know, because first, I know when we spoke, I didn't know you could take them internally. And I actually learned that through my client, because she said, oh, well, I'm taking whatever it was, turmeric or copaiba or what. And I thought,
you're doing well, Shelley.
You're taking that internally?
I know.
But if you say, I think you have to do your research. And if I remember correctly, and did you say that really doTERRA would be the only one for you that you would recommend for people to take internally?
Yeah, for me at this point, and it comes down to a personal preference too, right? So some people may start off really slowly with that, maybe they feel more comfortable taking something like the lemon in a drop, that kind of thing, because we're a little more familiar with that. We put a lemon in our water, and it's the essential oil in the rind. That kind of thing might be the entry point. But In terms of quality, I wouldn't recommend at this point. I'm not saying that won't change, but at this point, this is the only one that I would recommend that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite essential oils?
It's so hard.
But you did mention tummy upset. So what would, what would you recommend?
So generally, for tummy upset, so I mentioned peppermint earlier as a respiratory, but it's also something we recognize, like ginger, peppermint, things like that, as something calming for the digestive system. So peppermint on its own is a really good one. And then we have one called a blend that has like fennel, ginger, peppermint for digestive support. So that's really nice.
And that's where you would put it on. Would you put it in the coconut oil and rub it sort of on your tummy?
Yeah. So for kiddos, I would definitely do topical for them. I would do that and rub it on their belly. For adults, you can and teenagers, you can actually take it under the tongue. So it has a really strong like licorice anise flavor. And for people who've had digestive consistent, I call it kind of the spews and poos blend, because it really helps to calm that digestive system down. So peppermint digesten, the digesten is a specific blend. doTERRA has some of these are blends. But really, I like to start off, doTERRA is really amazing, and they put together some starter kits for people. And it's usually, they call them the top 10. And the reason that they've composed these is because these are going to be the ones that you would be most versatile, that you're going to reach for the most often for things. So it can be green cleaning to tummy upset to sleep to mood. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, the other one that I'm really liking right now is another blend that we were talking about before we started. It's called On Guard. And this one is really phenomenal for natural cleaning products, because it actually helps minimize the spread of virus and bacteria in a natural way without causing our concern around superbugs. It also supports our immune system. So we can inhale it. So aromatically, you can put that in your diffuser and it would support the whole family.
Okay.
You can put it topically, and you can actually take it under your tongue too.
Okay.
So that's
and then there's also the hand wash.
Yeah, so the doTERRA has done a really good job of making it easy for us. So if you're more of a DIYer, you could do this yourself, or they have it in hand wash and cleaner concentrates, and they actually have it in the toothpaste and stuff too, because oftentimes we're getting sick because we're putting our hands close to our mouth and things like that. So they're covering the bases with On Guard. You'll see that one a lot. Common ones like lavender, because it's kind of your queen, right? It's all queen of calm, I call it. So things for skin, any kind of redness, also any kind of inflammation, but also mood. So it's our queen. Lemon is a common one because it's so versatile. Green cleaning to putting in our water. A lot of people recognize oregano essential oil as an immune support. So it's a powerhouse that I use a lot. Frankincense is considered the king. So it's a less common one that people would be familiar with, but we often say, if you don't know what to reach for frankincense, because of how versatile it is. So it supports us on a cellular level, which is really key. You can actually go and look up your own research on that. But even like in skincare or pain, things like that, the frankincense can be really, really powerful. And as a mood one, we recognize it for being really grounding. So there's a top 10. Those are the ones I tend to reach for the most often. And then you can expand your your resources after that. But I always get people to kind of start with something like that.
Okay. And you help people, because I think that's sort of the scary part. At least it is for me. It's not for anybody else, but you go and you invest and you have these essential oils. And then I look at them and I think, well, what do I do with that? And how often do I do that? And when do I go to that? And as you say, you can use it in your cleaners, get rid of all those cleaners, but how do you do that? So I guess that's where you're really sharing either online or your educational workshops here.
Yeah, I feel really strongly as a practitioner, the big part for me in sharing it with people and clients is this idea that it becomes a really valuable tool in your home. And so one part is actually having the products in your home, but then it's about being supported and educated through this path of really integrating it, right? And this is kind of what I was seeing as a gap in care from my consultations to what was happening in people's homes. So what I love is that when you actually start and you get your oils, you get a mentor, someone like me, whoever you choose to start working with. So in the case if you start with me, I would be your person. And so education is abundant and it really can be personalized to you. So not only do you sit down and see where do you want to start, because there's many options for starting, but also then after that, we sit down and we kind of go over your lifestyle. We look at your wellness goals, and it's essential oils, but it really is this idea of these wellness pillars that you work in as a nutritionist too, right? So you know, how are you digesting? How are you sleeping? How are you moving? You know, what are you reaching for to support yourself? What does your toxic load look like? And we focus on that. And given what you're sharing with me, that way we can kind of put a plan of action together. It's usually every 3 months, so it's personal. But then you get this wider community of people who are also doing this. And there's something really profound and powerful about a community supporting you and learning something new. So this is where doTERRA just really nailed it on the head. They understood that simply just having something on the shelf isn't going to help someone to the degree unless they have support. So yeah, so you get me along with a community.
We get you. But it's true, like someone may reveal that, you know, they're taking Advil or Tylenol all the time, or someone different is, you know, they're having problems with sleep, but they would have never put it together that the essential oils could help with sleep, or you know, their child always has an upset tummy, and so how could you help?
Yeah, so the idea is really for me to be a guide and a mentor, and it's a very different model than what we've previously done where there's an authority figure. I'm more partnering with you and learning how to become, like I said, your own health advocate, because when we look at the areas of our health that we have control over, there's a lot more that we can do, and it really comes down to just being shown the way, right? So that's what really excites me about this piece in my practice of supporting people that way.
I love
it.
Yeah. So yeah, as you said, here we are smack dab in the middle of winter. We just had this lovely snowfall. I actually think it's beautiful. Everybody's complaining, but I think it's
that's because you and I don't actually have to leave the house today if we don't want to. Sorry, everyone.
But yes, so, you know, and I know you very nicely are going to offer those that have watched this lovely interview what would you call it, a winter wellness guide on essential oils?
Yeah, like I said, I'm an educator by nature, and I like to share. So I created this 33-page winter wellness ebook, and it's done in sections. So it's kind of looking at all of those areas that support us, especially in the winter. So the key initially is prevention.
Okay.
As you know,
prevention from colds and flu and
supporting your immune system. So minimizing the spread, like we were talking about with On Guard and cleaning products that would minimize that for us. But also, you know, how are we taking care? Are we sleeping well enough? Do we need support in that area? Are we consuming maybe too much sugar, and we can minimize that? What's our stress response like? That's a huge part of immune system. Are we moving? So there's key sections in the ebook that I've done for that, and you can kind of do a personal assessment. But then I put some really great recipes for sometimes we fall through the cracks, and sometimes things happen. So what are we going to be able to reach for when we maybe start to feel under the weather, right? So I've got a few if you want me to share them with you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I've got a favorite blend, given some of those essential oils that I mentioned earlier that are part of kind of those top 10. There's a really great one we call it Floon. So that stands for frankincense, lemon, oregano, tea tree, and On Guard. Okay. So these you could choose. You could diffuse them if you wanted to. You could put them into, I like doing something, you can put them in your carrier, a couple drops, and actually put them on the bottoms of your feet, or maybe closer to your neck where you're maybe feeling.
So you'd have like a drop of all of them.
Yeah. Or you can do something when we're doing something internally, like something to know about some essential oils like oregano. People think it just tastes bad, but when it's actually a pure oil, it's really hot. It's warm.
Yeah.
So instead of taking it straight, I get people to have little veggie capsules, and they can kind of it's almost like a flu bomb. So it can support your immune system when something's starting to come on, and if you can catch it early and be consistent.
Yep.
So with oils, it's a little bit more frequently rather than a whole bunch at once. Right. So you can do that whether you're trying to do prevention, you feel it coming on, or you're starting to get congested. That's one way. So that's kind of your big immune system one. And then what I like to do is sometimes do over a steaming mug. I might put in ones that are going to open up the respiratory. If we're talking about congestion a lot, usually.
Right. Yeah, because everybody's got the cold.
So I like, again, using that On Guard. I like using peppermint, and then there's a Breathe blend. So it's a whole bunch of different, like eucalyptus, cardamom, peppermint, things that support airways. There's a lot of choices. You can look at in the ebook, but you're basically putting a warm mug, a couple drops, covering your eyes because they're volatile, covering your eyes and inhaling, and that'll help open up the respiratory passages. Or you can put that same blend on your chest, front and back.
Okay.
The Digest Zen that I mentioned is actually really amazing for soothing sinus inflammation.
Oh, right. Yeah.
As well. So you can actually use your carrier and just put that on the bridge of your nose. Okay. So that's another way. And then you want to make sure you got good fluids coming in. So lemon is phenomenal for breaking up mucus. So keeping those fluids coming, and that'll help ease and bring up stuff if you need to. So those are kind of a few tips that you could use with oils off the top.
That's excellent. And then I guess people too can reach out to you. The best way is what? Through your website? What's your? Yeah,
so I'm on Instagram a lot. I'm on social media, Facebook, Instagram a lot. So you can direct message me if you have any questions, or through my email. So it's Sara@saradubeau.com, or you can go to my website, saradubeau.com. And if they have questions, what I'll often do with people is either sit down with them one-on-one and kind of see what they're looking to use these oils for, what areas of their health they'd like more support in, and we kind of tailor it to their needs. So that's one way. Or if you have a few friends, sometimes they'll come and sit in your kitchen with you and we can do it.
That's fun.
Yeah, that's another option for getting started with them too.
Exactly. Oh, great. So is there anything that you would just like to leave our listeners with concerning essential oils?
I think that people, once they start to learn the basics, they'll realize what a valuable tool it can be for them, and that it may seem intimidating at first, but there are so many resources, and I think the personal mentorship is a big part of that. So start asking, and then if you're looking at starting with oils, obviously doTERRA is my preference, but maybe it's just sitting and asking those questions around, digging a little deeper, asking questions of the companies that you're purchasing from, ask them to show you their testing. Something we didn't touch on, but that you can look at this website that I mentioned earlier called sourcetoyou.com is really looking at the ethics and the sourcing that the company is doing as well. So I know a lot more people
that's source to like the number 2 or TO?
TOUU.com, which I can share, and if you want to put it as a...
Sure, yeah, we'll put it underneath. So
but sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Because beyond the fact that we get to benefit is really looking at where we're sourcing from and how that's impacting sustainability in communities. And this is just another piece of why it's the heart of what I really love about doTERRA too, is they're serving us, but they're serving people globally with how they're sourcing. So if it's not doTERRA, look at your company, ask them questions, see if they're well-rounded, because you're supporting not only yourself, but that company and what they're doing around the world. So
and I like that part of it. I think it's so important to know where it's coming from, who's growing it, are they getting paid, are they providing education, information? Because, was it frankincense that you shared with me, or what? One of the oils, we get it from...
We get it from a lot of our oils from developing countries, because we're not just growing these in a greenhouse here in
Right.
Canada. We're actually sourcing them where they thrive best. And that means that some of these places are developing countries. And so we have an ethical responsibility to do good business,
Mhm.
because a lot of times on the sustainability front, if people are in impoverished areas and that's their only resource, how do you tell them to stop harvesting these
Right.
trees when
Yeah.
they're
That's
getting
their only,
underpaid?
yeah.
Right? So the sustainability factor is really knowing how to care for these resources and really paying the people who are harvesting them or growing them, so that they know that they can rest these trees. So there's a huge benefit to really supporting doTERRA this way, because they're doing these initiatives. And we don't need to go into countries and buy up all their land. We just need to partner with them, because they are artisans in their own right, and that elevates that entire community. So they retain ownership, and it's a partnership, and that means that they can be paid fairly, on time, have safe working conditions, things that are really part of our humanity, right? So
Exactly. Yeah.
aside from all of the beautiful benefits we receive, we know that we're then trickling down and supporting community in a bigger way. So that's something to look at too, because that's not
Yeah.
really happening as much as it should be.
Exactly. And it's something, you really don't stop and think about when you go in to the health food store or whatever, and you just buy your lavender or your tea tree oil or your frankincense and you go home. I love that, we're sharing this. We'll stop, think, where did this come from? Who
Yeah,
grew this?
yeah,
Are they getting paid? Are they, like, are you,
yeah.
yeah, it's so
Because
important.
frankincense is Somaliland, right? So they have an immense resource that for a very long time they were not getting paid appropriately for, because there was a middle person. So this is a huge movement that's happening with this whole industry. So I think people want to do the right thing, and I think it's just a matter of being kind of shown these are the things to look at. So these are some things that you can do your own research on, or you can talk to me more about if you are interested.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for joining me today. I've certainly
Thank
learned a lot.
you. It
Listeners
was my
will learn
pleasure.
a lot. And I'm going to put the link below so people can just click on it and
Okay.
download your great winter wellness guide.
Thank you. I hope you enjoy it.
And enjoy winter. We have to enjoy it.
That's right. I want to help everyone stay healthy through this weather, because there's nothing worse than
Exactly.
a snow day that you can't enjoy, right?
That's right. Exactly.
Thank you
Thanks so
so
much,
much.
Sarah.
Wonderful.